is here next to me. Actually, he's not here. He had a back injury. He can't come. So I'm going to be presenting a design conference, and I'm not a designer. But that's perfect. Because exactly, thank you. Often we tend to have a focus on our own job and our own world. So maybe by talking nonsense, I might create new thinking. So let's have a go. Let's try. So my name is Olivier. I live in Paris, and but I was born in Los Angeles. So I have a French accent. I have an English accent. Nobody really knows where I'm from, and I'm deaf. So I have a deaf voice. So it's really confusing. So I hope everybody understands me. I've learned very early in life to interrupt people and tell them, I don't understand you. So if there's something that's not clear, raise a hand. So I'm here to present an application that I developed with Joel. And it's an app that helps deaf people like me to make phone calls. Making phone calls is something you do every day. You don't realize how important that is to you until you can't do it. It's like your little finger. Today, in a world where you have email, SMS, chat, Skype, who needs the phone to make a phone call? Many people do. It's very critical to your everyday life, but it's also very emotional. You phone people to tell them something important, good news. But this is something that I really, really wanted to do. And this is very fundamental to understanding when people develop something, is to understand why you're doing it. Why am I going to spend years of my life in a startup, probably spend times where people question what you do, etc. So my why is very fundamental. All I want to do is be able to call my mother. She lives in Los Angeles. I'm here. I just want to make it simple, dead simple, to have a phone conversation with her. And I'm not the only one. There's a lot of people like me out there. There's actually 1 out of 100 people who have issues with hearing. Well, that's everything. Some people have like tinnitus, the ringing sound in the ears. But you can still phone. Actually, there's 1 out of 100 people that cannot even phone. That's important. 1 out of 100 people. Just to take France as an example, there's 500,000 people who cannot use a phone. That's ridiculous. That's a lot of people. And so that's interesting is today there's no such thing as a niche market, because technology today, the level you need to launch a product has gone really, really low. And you can launch something technologically complicated, even for a very small market, because the small market is still large in absolute numbers. 1% of the market, who cares about this today? 1% of the market is still huge in absolute numbers. 500,000 people in France can't phone. That's crazy. So I had an inspiration. I was working for Orange. There's Orange in Poland too, by the way. For Orange in France, I was working there. And it's very ironic. I work for the telecom operator, and I can't phone. That's weird. And then one day I was seeing a friend use Siri, talking to it. And my mind just went, phew. Siri does something I can't do. At the time, Siri was just a total gadget. Nobody was using it. It was like, you're talking to it and it doesn't work. Can somebody tell me in this room if Siri works well in Polish? Raise a hand. Ouch. Okay, it doesn't work. Okay. Well, Siri works really well in English, in French, in many languages where there's a lot of people who have, like, let's say, the more you talk to Siri, the more it understands, it learns from you. So people start using Siri. What are you waiting for? Talking to it. It's the future. It's the future of interactions with machines. when Apple came out with Siri, it was the last thing Steve Jobs wanted to do with the iPhone. He went into tactile screens. But it's weird using your finger to interact with a machine. It's kind of weird. Like, why am I interacting with a finger with a machine? It's kind of weird. Your voice has so much more flexibility, so much more natural. It's part of you. It's how you interact with people. You don't come up to people and like say, hey, and it's the same thing with voice. So that was his vision. Like beyond the tactile screen is the voice. And today we're seeing with Alexa coming out, Amazon Echo, and everybody trying to do the same. And so my vision of that was just a little bit different. It's not exactly the same, but close. For me, when I meet somebody and I can't understand them, the first thing I'm like, wait, I don't understand what they're saying. Please slow down. That's exactly how you're supposed to talk to Siri. If it doesn't understand you, it's not entirely your fault. It's not the fault of the machine either. You kind of have to make a halfway point. Some of you use automatic cashier machines at the supermarket. Have you used it? Okay, how many people find the experience frustrating? Quite a few. Okay. Over the years, you've learned to use the machines. You go beep one by one, and you put it down. Beep. So the machine is learning. It's changing you. You're changing. The machine has changed how you behave in the supermarket. It's the same thing. I want people, when I meet somebody and they have never met a deaf person before, I tell them, look, you need to slow down. It's too noisy here. So they learn. And we expect you to learn how to talk to machines eventually. So this is kind of an example of what actually happens when I'm talking with people. And it's actually what happens when you're talking with Siri and an engine. I can't make sense of the first conversation and ask people to repeat. None of it makes sense. So the two of us were kind of helping each other out. We're both handicapped. I think Siri is handicapped, seriously. It doesn't really understand what I'm saying. But I help people to talk to Siri in a way that it understands what I'm saying. It's the same thing with me. The advantage Siri has is it doesn't need to look at you to understand what I'm saying. I do. I need to lip read you. It helps me understand what I'm saying. Some people use sign language. Polish sign language, I don't understand. It's different from French sign language. There's some similarities. So we need visual cues. Siri doesn't have a visual cue. And I'm here to try to tell you that there's a fundamental shift in what I see in the future of communication. It's supposed to be visual, much more visual. It's supposed to be about how we visualize interactions with the screen. When I see speech to text, it's not enough. It's just like somebody says, okay, that's great. And I read, okay, that's great. But I can't hear the person's voice. Is it, that's great, or, okay, that's great. That's not good. But I can't tell the difference. And so what we want to do here is to improve on that, to make it even more visual. So we're doing speech recognition. Then we need to do actual voice recognition, which is not what we're doing today. We don't do voice recognition. We do speech recognition. So that we want to keep going further on this. So this is kind of something where people help each other out. I don't know if you know the definition of symbiosis. You see it in nature a lot. When there's like, I don't know, a shark with his teeth open, and there's like little fish swimming in the shark's mouth, feeding it. And it's kind of helping the shark brush his teeth with little fish in the mouth. Same thing with birds, to pick the fleas off the buffalo's back. And so they help each other out. So I kind of see this relationship here. I'm trying to help people understand how to talk to machines. Talk to a deaf person, and you'll know how to talk to a machine. So now we work with Google a lot. They've been really, really supportive of what we do. And they've come out and filmed what we do. So I'm going to show you a story. I grew up with over 80% hearing loss. That hasn't stopped me from doing so many things in my life. Being an entrepreneur allows me to have this sense of freedom in doing what I want. And I knew that I could do something about accessibility in telecommunications to deaf people. Rogibus is an app that allows deaf people to make phone calls. The notion is quite simple. We're trying to use voice recognition to capture the other person's voice so that I can read what you're saying. It's not like I was looking for solutions, I was just looking for something to help me. Then I realised there was something much more to it. I knew right away that I had to make this happen to a lot of other people. My goal was to make it as accessible as possible to everybody. I knew that Android had the widest reach out there, over 1 billion users today, which is massive. And the fact that Android had like no constraints, I didn't have to ask myself if this was possible or not possible. I could just do it. So that was a deciding factor. I had no skills to start with. I couldn't code, I couldn't design, I had to find people, find skills. It's at that point where you realize you can do a lot of things, but you needed all of these connections around you to make it happen.
When Olivier came to me, the first thing we did was rethinking the navigation. And here we are building an app that based on accessibility. I wanted to make something really clear and easy to use, and material design really helped me because all these guidelines are really clear.
The versions of the application on Android were iterated easily, and the development of the whole app took about 3 months.
When I made it happen, it was a great moment. I was just like, wow, this is so cool. I can call my mom now. And I spent the next 24 hours calling everybody in the world, all my friends. Before launching the product, Google Play's alpha and beta program allowed me to invite people specifically to test the app. And so there's people in Canada trying the app out. There's people in Kuwait, there's somebody in Japan.
It's not like a game where if you have a bug, you just fix it. It's supposed to be a life-changing experience for a person with hearing disabilities. If it doesn't work well, it will be really disappointing. So thanks to the beta testing program, we were able to get it right from the first published version.
What I enjoy the most developing Roger Voice application on Android is that I create something that really matters to the end users.
I feel like when you release something out there, it's like end of story. But then you can think about it other ways. You can be like, okay, we've gone this far, but now there's so much more to do. I see that probably the biggest evolution going forward to put accessibility as a major component of development and design. And I'm proud to be part of that trend. So you were introduced to the designer in the video. I'm going to try to speak for him a little bit and how he came into the story. So Joel has a studio called Designer's Team, and he's done a few apps, navigation.
We started Dots 2 years ago, and my co-founder Patrick had this idea to create an art-inspired game, a game that we wanted to play. My name is Paul Murphy. I'm one of the...
Sorry about that. I thought it was some background music. I was like... So he does an app for... he did an app for navigation, an app for booking reservations. Very cool. An app for finding places to hang out, to drink. And recipes with people who offer you in-house services. And of course, probably the best app he's done so far, obviously, is Roger Voice. And so he helped me start out. He was really trying to push me. Like he was like, he made me ask really fundamental questions: why I was doing this, what was the need, how do we make it, how do we test it very quickly. And so this is the message I gave to Joel. I was like, deaf people are scared of using the phone. When I receive a phone call, the first thing I do is like, it's like a spider in my hand. I'm like, please somebody take it out, take it. I don't want to use this. So I just hang up. I freak out. So Joel asked me a lot of those questions, and he's like, we need to help people understand what a phone call is. Actually, I've never found I don't feel comfortable. And the next step we were doing is try to really push my boundaries. Like, I come from a telecom background, so I know the business side of it, but I don't really know how to make a phone conversation. Which is something very different. And Joel had to ask questions to people, to deaf people. He made me interview a lot of deaf people in his office and be like, what was the need he was trying to address? What is the experience you want to get out of the phone call? Which is very different. All the perceptions you have of making a phone call just fly out the window, because when you have a deaf person in front of you, you're kind of confused and you're trying to find the right approach. So Joel had a previous experience building an app for Varnish in the UK. And this helped him understand the basic elements of a phone call, which are actually quite complicated when you think about it. You have like incoming calls, outgoing calls, missed calls, blocked calls, credits, how much time. It's a really complex universe. And the fact that we're trying to add transcriptions means that we're trying to actually break down some very strict notions in telephone conversation. You're not supposed to record a voice to transcribe it in the middle of a phone conversation. It's called wiretapping. Let's put it this way. It's illegal. So we had to do something different with the tools at our disposal. And so Android was actually a much more flexible platform for doing this. Allowed us to be sort of like rebels, to try something different. And of course, there were a lot more people on Android among our customer base. So these are the first prototypes. I made those. I'm very proud of those, actually. And I did this on PowerPoint and the basic ideas were there. And we used these for Joel to make the first prototypes. And so these were the first prototypes Joel made out of what we did. And as you can see, it wasn't meant to be beautiful. And we tested these with users. And as we got along, he added more stuff to it. So now it added layers of color, identity, drawings, and illustrations. The illustrations were very important for us. The illustrations are very important because it gives a soul to the app. Once again, we're trying to allay people's fears. And today you see that a lot in apps now that work really well. There's always like a little animated person trying to be like, hey, I'm just friendly. And it's true because a lot of people have fears about the apps. Basically, once you have a phone in your pocket, your privacy is over, it's gone. So we're trying to tell people, hey, use me, I'm nice. The fact is, we're collecting a lot of data on people. That can be kind of scary. So we're trying to allay people's fears and trying to understand that this is actually a service that helps you. We have a designer, an illustrator that Joel put me in touch with. She's in Vancouver, but she's actually Brazilian. I love this world. And she gave life to our service. So this is the most important part of everything that we have done, is testing. I can't emphasize this enough. And my problem is, as I'm an industry expert, I have assumptions. I know exactly what kind of product to make. I'm deaf, so I'm the expert. I'm a telecom guy, I'm the expert. Joe is a designer, so we're good. And the two of us, we should be able to make a perfect app. Quite frankly, a lot of things we had done just flew out the window. We were testing it on people, and they were completely confused. They had no idea what the app was supposed to do. Is that a messaging app? No. So people started typing. We're like, wait, it's not a messaging app. So why can't I just use FaceTime? Because the doctor doesn't have FaceTime. So if you want to call a doctor, he doesn't have the app. You need to make an app that calls out, like Skype to Skype, both people have the app. Skype out, the other person doesn't have the app. That's what we had to do. So it's very confusing. People Skype out, Skype in. Why are we paying for an app that's supposed to be free? It's a lot of confusion. And I actually had to be very humble when I was developing this. And the most, let's say today, even today, I'm trying to question what I do with my app. And I would love it if you guys just download the app, give me feedback. I don't care if you're deaf or not, that's not the point. The point is, if you guys can't understand what it does, you still need to work on it. And we love having feedback. So Polish doesn't work really well, just to make sure. I think you know that. And so the point on design here is that the whole emphasis that I learned from Joel was not to rely on my own assumptions of what was possible or not possible. As a deaf person, my ideas, my perception of communication kind of ran against what Joel was thinking. He just kept telling me, but why can't people just send SMS to each other? I mean, I don't get it. Everybody has SMS. That's not what communication is about for me. It's really about like being instant present. Nothing else does that on the way that a phone does today. It's a legacy technology that's been around for 150 years. Exactly. Actually, 1867. And this legacy technology is prevalent everywhere in our lives. We all have phone numbers. There's more of you that have phone numbers than have emails, obviously, I think. And it's an easy, instant way to reach you. If somebody just showed up at the conference and trying to find you and sending you like 5 or 6 SMS, I'm downstairs, yes, me too, I'm downstairs, but where are you? I can't find you. Just phone somebody up in 1 minute, it's solved. And that's what we do. So this is the message I was trying to put at Joe, and Joe had feedback. He had to send me back the same message and be like, trying to challenge my assumptions, stuff like this. It's really important in design. Thank you. I would like people to be able to actually download the app and like try to call each other up, make feedback to me. If you can hashtag Roger Voice, just hashtag like this, Roger Voice on Twitter or on Facebook. It would be just a very open way of testing, developing the app. And I would really appreciate this. How many of you have an actual design background? Half the room. Okay, wow, perfect. And this is kind of a way for me to make sure that when we challenge the status quo, it also goes the other way around. I want to test the assumption of what messaging is, what is communication, why use the phone differently. Why isn't it already a default today for Android to caption the phone calls? And that's my goal. I want people to have a default communication that's always transcribed. Make the world more accessible for everybody. If you have any questions, let me know. On design, on why we did what we do. Thank you. Oh, if you have a question, I'm going to walk up to you, make sure I hear you better. Okay.
Out to people? Yeah, how did you reach out to your customers to validate that they are mostly on Android?
Why do most of my users use on Android?
Yeah, you said that your customer base mostly used Android, and that was one of the reasons besides the permissions that you decided to build for Android first. How did you validate that your customers used Android?
There wasn't one. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I've got your question right. there isn't one reason we started developing an Android. There's multiple reasons. One, most of our users were on Android, like just on a first name basis with a lot of my potential customers. I just knew that they had an Android in the pocket. So just around me, I needed this user base to test it with. As for the world at large, it's pretty, I think it's 70% Android on the market today. So that's one reason. Second reason is permissions. At the time, we hacked Google's microphone. We did a lot of illegal stuff. We broke a lot of barriers, and that was actually possible. And one day we just contacted Google and said, "Hey, who did this?" And they're like, "All right, pretty good, guys. Cool, keep going." They didn't care. They really don't care. But then eventually, when we put it on the store, the final version of the app, it had to be square, no hacks. That was another reason. Okay.
Any other questions?
So you said that Google were really supportive. Have you spoken to Apple? And if so, were they supportive?
I have not spoken to Apple. No, I have not spoken to Apple. Why not? And actually, they're very, very accessibility oriented. And right now, sure, why not? I mean, if the entire ecosystem can be made accessible, so much the better. I'm really looking forward to that. So if you have a particular contact at Apple, I'm more than happy to go talk to them and make sure they... Good. So actually, Apple has actually been a revolution in accessibility. Did you just see a conference earlier with Jakub, I think it was? He has low vision, and he showed us exactly how the accessibility features in Apple work, and just mind-blowing. It's really, really impressive. If you go on accessibility settings in your phone, it's a very, very complex universe, and it's well done. Today you have like flash. When your phone rings, you can have flash. A lot of you use it. You're not blind or you're not deaf or whatever it is. It's just very useful for flash for deaf people. Vibration, stuff. People love this stuff. Large text, fonts, and everything. My parents love it. They're just a little bit old. They're like 60. They're not blind, but they just love the large fonts. And so I think accessibility, when it's thought about by a niche group of people, eventually benefits a large segment of the population. There's also an interesting story is the phone was actually invented by an American. Well, actually the French think a French guy invented, but never mind. An American guy also invented it at the same year and at the same time. And he was developing this, he was researching into phonetics because his mother is deaf and his wife was deaf. And he was doing a lot of research on phonetics. And he came out with these very complicated electronic contraptions and eventually was able to transmit sound from one place to another. That was the very first telephone. The telephone today, I see it as nothing more than a very long distance hearing aid. I have a hearing aid right here, allows me to understand somebody in front of me. Your phone is nothing more than a very long distance hearing aid when you think about it. There's also many other inventions that were done by people who are themselves with a special need or requirement or are inspired by other people. In Italy, many years ago, because I'm saying this because I don't know the exact date, there was a guy who was completely in love with a woman who was blind. And he needed a way to exchange with her. He invented the typewriter, the very first typewriter, just for a guy who was in love with a blind woman. I think the internet, the first version of the internet, DARPA, D-A-R-P-A, was coded by a man called Vint Cerf. Vint is deaf. His wife is deaf. And it's just a fantastic medium for them to communicate. There's many stories like this that you will find eventually, like the remote control, etc., etc. So if you find a guy who's handicapped, should be like, hey, inspire me, what can I do for you? Who knows? I'm only partly exaggerating. The more people have constraints in their lives, the more they're seeing things differently. And I think it applies to everybody. If you have like glucose intolerance, obviously you're gonna try to find healthy foods that allow you to have a good diet. And it turns out that it's gonna help other people too, and so on and so forth.
Okay, question about speech recognition. You're probably using Google's ASR in the app. I just downloaded it and I saw that you have a language setting, which is kind of natural because you expect the person you're calling to be speaking a certain language. But the technology itself probably has some problems that you tackle or must tackle somehow. For example, recognizing names, street names. This is the things that the ASR sometimes struggles with. Or maybe you can shine some light on what are the biggest problems that users encounter with speech recognition mechanisms as they are today. Or maybe you find that the accuracy of the ASR is completely satisfactory. I don't know, but from my experience, it's not always, 100% accurate and 100% enough.
Let me think about that. I'm not sure I got the question right. So I'm going to try something, and then you can tell me if I'm off. About the delay in. Yes. Okay. So this is actually something that's out of our control for now. Partly. Our development is mostly about the telecom stack, about transmitting the information as fast as possible. That there's no delay. That the user actually gets the text along with the audio. That's actually a lot more complicated than it seems. So we're actually telecom developers. The voice recognition part is Google's server that's merged with ours. We really, let's say, we're trying to make the user experience as controllable as possible. Joel was telling me that we're not here to test users, we're here to test systems. And it's fundamental to understand that because voice recognition is going to depend on your voice, how you say things, the speed, if you're in a noisy environment, if there's a static on the network. Well, there's many variables that we can't control. But I can influence these variables a little bit. If I knew that it was busy on your end of the signal, or loud, or if you have an accent or something, and if I knew that, I could tell you, can you speak clearly again? One day I was calling my dad, and the result was just really bad on the phone. I was like, man, I'm never going to make it. This app just sucks. I give up. And then my girlfriend is sitting next to me, she's like, what's the problem? It's like, it doesn't work. And she's like, well, obviously, he was in the car. He was in the car with the window open. It's just loud. And so the result was really bad. But I'm deaf, and I couldn't hear that he was in the car. My dad was just like, he didn't think about it either. So these are actually design factors, in my opinion. It's because I was lacking the visual cues. And those visual cues, I can actually transmit them to the user if I could identify that it was noisy over there. So you could probably try to display percentage error, maybe But that could be too technical, or maybe just put a sad face. So we're trying to think of how to transmit this to the user in a visually easy way, not be too technical. So we're still exploring this right now. Technically, we can do it, just information overload. There's also, just on that subject about displaying visual information, we're working with another startup to display the tone of voice. Somebody's like positive or negative, and eventually like sad, happy, stuff like this, which is really interesting. Could actually be scary. Like, what if I call somebody and they just have an accent, and it tells me that they're frustrated, but it's not true. It could be scary, but we need this information. If I'm calling somebody and be like, oh, so you want to come tonight? And like, yeah. Yes, no. I have to ask them again. It's kind of embarrassing. Don't you get the hint? Stuff like this. So there's the accuracy of the speech transcription, but also the complete lack of the surrounding environment around speech. Very important. We're going to release soon a video version, like FaceTime with subtitles, so that we can see people's faces. And that will help in 2 months, I hope. But just if I'm calling a phone line and the other guy doesn't have the app, I can't do a video call with that person. I want to be able to have complementary information.
Any questions? More? Nothing?
I have a question, actually. Is the reason you don't use dictation or speech recognition on the phone, is the reason because the transcription sucks? Or is it the reason because you haven't taken up the habit and you don't even think about it? So people who raise your hands if it's just because the transcription just sucks and you've tried it. Okay, and those who just don't even think about it and haven't got into the habit. It's funny because deaf people have the same problem with the phone. It's like, there's a fantastic app, and they're like, oh my God, I just made a phone call. Oh my God, this is so emotional. And then like 2 weeks later, they forget about it. I'm like, we had the app for a call. They've tried it, but they just forgot about it. And it's the same thing with technology today. It's like, how do you actually push technology into people's hands? You have to actually make it get into their lives as a habit, as something that is not just another app on your screen. It's probably going to disappear one day. If it's not on the home screen, forget about it. On the home screen, there's how many apps? 8, 6, 8. So it's funny that 3/4 of the room raise their hand and were like, we don't even use it or don't think about it. This completely magical property of your telephone goes to waste. And will get even better if you keep using it as it learns from your voice. That's the kind of feedback I get from my users. It's like, they think it's great, fantastic that they can phone, but they don't think about it every day. It hasn't gotten into the habits. It takes time, it takes a lot of time. And that's something that just kills startups, a lot of them. It's like, the time it takes for a habit to come into being, you're dead. It takes 5 years, 10 years for people to change behaviors. And maybe you have a fantastic app, and obviously you're going to be like, I knew it, I said it 10 years ago. Well, that was too early, man. It was too early. So as a designer, Joel's role is to help people understand right away and to make it catchy. If you can gamify the experience, if you can make it tied into other experiences in their lives, if you can ask your friends, if I can print my phone number on my business card, I've started putting my phone number in my emails. I've never done that before. And the result is overnight, people started calling me instead of replying to my emails. I'm like, it's very, I think phone conversations are very disturbing. I think it's very disturbing to be disturbed right away. It's rude. It's like, I'm just doing my minding my business, somebody interrupt me. But by doing this, I got into the habit of making phone calls, and I've put it into my life by putting phone numbers in my emails and my business cards. This is something that a lot of apps could do if they want to get into people's lives. Do you know that your cars will probably already have voice recognition, or soon will in the next few years? You're going to talk to your car and be like, show me the address to McDonald's, and or where's the next gas station, stuff like this. You're going to talk to your cars. You're going to get used to talking to your cars. So if you want your Polish to work well, please start talking to your phones today so you can start learning, please.
Thank you, Oliver. Then please give Oliver a big round of applause.